Our big question of the day is, how do you motivate yourself to ride consistently over winter? For lots of us, the weather is soon going to turn grim. The nights and mornings are darker. It can be, it's very hard to stay consistent with your bike riding. And that is true. So
it can also be hard in summer as well.
How do you solve this problem? Because my way of solving it is I just leave.
Throw money at it.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Well, have been in a really privileged position to be able to continue working and go somewhere to film a series of videos somewhere warmer. And there's the reason why a lot of pro cyclists or aspiring pro cyclists who are very performance focused will go to a place like Calpe for a month, 2 months, Mallorca. They go to these like warmer climates. That's not an option for everybody. However, it is what I've done for the last few years.
It is, yeah. It's an option for some people, I'm sure. Even having, I think a lot of people use, I know the backyard lot, so some of the lads that ride up here, they will very often go away to Mallorca or various other places early in the season. Mm-hmm. So they'll go on a holiday in like March, April, May time. So you've got something to work towards. So having something to work towards the following spring, following summer.
They'll treat that as I need to get fit or stay fit for this holiday that I'm going to go on. And
so you do blocks of training, probably indoors, but not always indoors, thinking like, well, I want to be in good shape so that when I go back to Mallorca, I have a cracker. What's it called? Sacalabra.
I think, yeah.
Sacalabra? I don't know.
I've never been to Mallorca.
Yeah, me neither. If you go the same place every year, you have a qualifying. You basically have your A race every time, trying to see how quick you go up a climb.
Yeah.
Having an event to aim towards. In terms of running, it was always historically London Marathon, because London Marathon's in like April or something. I think it is back to that. They changed it with COVID and things. So you would always have to train for London Marathon through winter, which is hideous because you'd be out doing 4-hour runs in terrible weather through the winter for then the early in the season. Kit is a given.
Just wet weather kit is the big thing, isn't it? Like,
well, just cold as well. It's not. So for the northeast, it's quite easy to get through a lot of the winter without getting wet. You might get splash off the road, but you can quite easily avoid rain. But you cannot avoid cold. Yeah. Impossible to avoid cold.
Well, that's to say, if you can only ride at the weekend, which a lot of people, that's the situation, you're not going to always be able to avoid rain.
But you can quite often. You pick your time of day.
Yeah, I suppose.
In the northeast as well, which is what I'm saying, it's not that wet in winter.
No. And in the winter, like here, if you're in the UK, roads get gritted. There's salt in the grit. It messes up your bike.
Wash your bike.
Wash it, but there's almost nothing you can do. Yeah. Like you're gonna have to service it or ride a winter bike if you have one that has got cheaper parts on it.
So pick good clothing. Make sure you're warm. Give yourself the option to take stuff off if you're too warm. Good gloves.
Overshoes.
Overshoes is a good one. Or I use like proper winter boots. Cycling boots.
I think pretty underrated. If you can find a pair that fit you. I struggle with finding cycling shoes that work for me, and I've never found a warm pair like that. But you can get like winter booty sort of. You don't need to put overshoes on top of them.
As someone which has really bad circulation, the only way I've been able to cycle in winter without my toes disappearing from my body is with winter boots. Mm-hmm. So I have a road version and I have an off-road version.
Yeah,
and they're phenomenal.
Yeah. You can try Spats. They look horrible, but they are probably the best overshoe solution for keeping your feet dry.
I would never use them. I hate them.
SPATZ because of how they look.
I just can't get them. I can't do it.
And they're like really long overshoes, aren't they? So they're a pain in the ass to get on. And you go all the way up your leg, like just below the knee kind of thing. And that stops because if you wear normal length overshoes, more often than not, water goes in the top, works its way down, and if you're doing a 3 or 4 hour ride, you're still getting wet feet by the end. And I think that's what Spats try to stop.
Yes, yeah.
They do a pretty good job.
Product.
It is a good product.
It's just not for me.
Gore Shake Dry, another piece of amazing kit, but discontinued now.
I use an aero helmet only in winter.
Winter. Oh, because it's got less vents for cold stuff to go in and wet.
If it rains, it generally the water falls off it better.
Yeah. Do you wear you wear a cap in summer sometimes, don't you?
Only because of tan lines and bugs.
Yeah. What about in winter? Do you put a thing you cover your ears and stuff?
Yeah. So we did with Attacus neck warmers.
Yeah.
Which are it's basically a rectangle of fabric. So I use it as a skull cap. So you basically put it on, do a little twisty thing, put it back down on itself. So then I've basically got ear covers and just kind of gives my head a bit of protection. But you still get a bit of ventilation out the top of it.
Yeah. See, people commented on this for years when I was doing riding videos in the snow and stuff. I never wear a head covering.
Yeah, but if you don't need it,
helmet
you don't need
only.
it.
I don't, for some reason, maybe it's a circulation thing. I don't get cold hands. I don't get cold feet. I don't get cold head unless it's 4 hours of rain.
Yeah.
But even then, my head's always fine. Fingers are probably the first thing.
For someone that always complains about the cold, you wear less kit than anyone I know when it's cold.
Yeah, I get very hot when I ride. As soon as I'm riding, I'm fine.
What other equipment-related ones? Mudguards. I would definitely always recommend mudguards.
Full-length mudguards.
Yeah, proper full ones, because they'll keep water off you, which means that you are going to be warmer and you're going to be more comfortable and enjoyable on the bike. Just the whole bike ride is going to be better if you have mudguards.
Bike stays clean.
And that's
bike basically, it's amazing. Real full-length mudguards make a big difference.
Yeah. Your drivetrain doesn't stay clean, but your bike does.
Yes. Bear in mind, you'll need decent tire clearance, and you won't be able to fit as big tires in often as the frame manufacturers say if you then put mudguards in as well.
In this section, I would also love to be able to recommend airless tires because it's just perfect for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things that's horrible about riding in winter outside is if you do get a puncture, it's just the worst. You're going to end up getting covered in crap.
Your hands are cold, so they don't work, so you can't get the tires off.
Just the whole process is just going to make you want to turn around and go home.
I would if I was going to ride if I was doing a whole winter riding in the UK, I would change things on my bike. I would always have a frame pump.
Mm-hmm.
I would always have mud guards, and I would always wear all of that wet weather kit for sure. But yeah, frame pump that's the thing people forget that it exists, and that is a really good thing. It's one less thing in your pocket, and it makes it 10 times faster to get air in the tire.
Agreed.
And you'll be everyone's favorite on the ride as well when you pull out a frame pump and everyone's got their little
indoor training. For me, as soon as the weather changes, and funnily enough, actually yesterday I started. So I recently moved house. I've been in a new house for 3 months, maybe 4 months. It's been summer and I've been too busy to ride my bike anyway, so I haven't been riding bikes. But yesterday was the point. It feels like winter is on its way, and I was like, now's the chance. Make some space, find the turbo, put my bike on it, stole the Zwift Play controllers from Cade Media so I can actually see what they're like over the next couple of months.
Were they good?
Well, I don't know yet.
Oh, you haven't had to try? Okay,
no. Well, I sent you a picture.
You sent me a picture of you in trousers.
Full clothes, but with cycling shoes on.
I know. Normally send me naked pictures.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You were disappointed. You're like, what's the clothes about?
Weird.
Weird. But yeah, my turbo's set up because the weather's turning and I plan to train on a bike in winter. I always do. I am an ex-triathlete, and if you're a triathlete, you ride turbo. That's just how it goes.
For specific training, it's bang for buck, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I mean, the amount of time you spend freewheeling on a ride outside, even if it's really controlled, you end up having to do a little bit more as well. So Ken always does this. Coach Ken, if he prescribes training sessions.
Prescribes.
Is that the right word?
Well, technically.
Prescribes. Sounds very clinical. When he gives people training sessions, if it's a turbo session, you can do it indoor or outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing it on an indoor trainer, you can do less, pretty much. So it's like reduce it by 25% if it's just a steady ride.
25%, is that the actual figure, or are you just making that up?
I'm making that up. I can't remember. It's significant.
If it's 25%, I'm never riding outdoors again.
Just get it done.
If it was if I was training for something and I had a coach and it was like, if you do it indoors, you can do 25% less.
Honestly,
every single time.
25%, I'm sure.
You're sure? Not sure.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, indoor training setup. For me, I have used Zwift on and off for a long time. I probably will try some other ones this year because it feels like we're at the point where there's a lot of other options. I don't have one of those like crazy indoor turbo setups. I have a good turbo. It's the Flux S.
Yeah, the cheaper one.
Which is, it's about 600.
Flux, does that rub your rear wheel? Or is it direct drive?
No, it's direct drive.
Direct drive.
Yeah,
okay, so it's the cheaper version of the Neo.
Yeah, it's about £600, I think, somewhere around that kind of price point, and it's phenomenal.
It's got a power meter in it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's basically the Neo 2, but it has it's smaller, it doesn't fold up, and it has to have a power source.
And it doesn't have it's the maximum wattage.
Yeah.
There's a limit of
it's maybe like 1100 rather than 2500.
2000 watts or something, yeah. Who's doing 2000 watts on a turbo? People.
So, I don't have like an overly fancy one. I've got a good but not outrageously over the top turbo. I have what I call an industrial sized drummer fan, which is just like a big metal fan you put on the floor. And I have a music stand, which I put my laptop and bits and pieces on. And now I've got your Zwift Play or Cade Media Zwift Play controllers to see what they're like. And that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I like to watch a film or watch TV or listen to music, whilst also having a screen somewhere in my peripheral vision with Zwift on it or something, just because, I don't know, there's something nice about having lots of distractions. But then when I turbo, I always keep it short.
Do you do training? Do you do like intervals or something like that?
I will always do a structured session on a turbo, and it'll always be short. I'm very rarely going over 50 minutes. It's probably a 40-minute session, simple warm-up, blast myself, beat myself up a bit, simple cool down, bosh, I'm done. Crack on.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. I can't. I've tried to do structured sessions on the indoor trainer, and I always get too hot. And at one point, when I was trying to solve it, I had 5 fans all pointing at me. 3 wind machine ones. I can see one in front of me right there. It's like a big, is that a drum fan? Is that what you call that?
Just
one of those
drummer
big,
fan, yeah.
Yeah, a big drummer fan. And then 3 of those pointing at me, and 2 in front of me, 50k an hour VacMaster air movers or something. And they're even stronger, but very quiet, pointing directly at me, still overheat. I'm doing my VO2 max
What are you
session.
defining as overheat?
Getting hot to the point where the heat is causing me not to be able to do the power anymore.
Well, maybe
you can feel yourself
maybe
getting
just
too
not
hot.
as good as you think you are.
No, outside's fine. Outside's fine.
Yeah, but indoor's always lower wattage than outdoor.
Yeah, a little bit, but not. The difference was just ridiculous. And then I found out to create the same amount of cooling as riding outdoor at 40k an hour, it takes 9 fans like that. Ken was in a study where they studied how hot you get on a turbo. Guess what? It's really hot.
So you need to
Really
buy
hot.
4 more fans.
You need to buy 4 more fans or just go outside and stop being a wuss.
Do you have the Tax Neo or not?
Yeah, 2T.
It doesn't have to be plugged in, so just take it outside.
Outside one.
Yeah.
No, but it's stationary. It's the wind that you get from riding outside. It's not being outside.
So outside with 9 fans. Done.
Then I would be fine.
Do you remember Ash Beach, the blood guy?
Yes.
So he had a YouTube channel and he was obsessed with like manipulating his blood for performance legally. He was doing lots of like legal stuff, but like loads of iron and stuff and all that kind of thing. He used to do all of his turbos and he was like competing in the same stuff as Cam Jeffers and all of that. And he didn't used to use a fan at all.
No fan.
No, he used to train specifically to be able to handle the heat.
Yeah, like James Jobber.
And, he was very good.
James Jobber from the bike shop in Newcastle. It's continental level pro, as well as working in the bike shop. He has built a sauna in his house that he trains in. It's a room with just specifically for his bike and turbo, which is a sauna.
Because
His
a
race
lot of his
calendar
races
is
is like
bonkers.
Mauritius
Yeah.
and Morocco.
The Caribbean.
Have you seen when he trains in he like when he rides home after a ride in the summer?
20 degrees outside.
Full winter kit.
Yeah.
And
ear warmer.
He'll be in the shop and they've got a fireplace that is like a furnace.
Well, that's why backyard bike shops are always so hot. You go in, you're like, and Nick's there in his flip flops,
Yeah.
sipping a mug.
And Jobber's in there in like a woolly jumper. trying to just get his body acclimatized to like
love it.
500 degrees.
It works though, because he then like podiums, stage races at Conti level.
Yeah, so maybe you need to get that into your head and find a better balance of what's hot and what's not hot.
No, exactly. I'll just build a sauna in my house. I'll report back next week. What's the next point?
So something that I have historically done and is really, really useful is add some accountability. So if you're following a training plan, whether that be a generic one from Zwift or a generic one from Garmin or a specific one from a coach or a generic one from a coach in most cases, another topic, having that accountability and, you know, the forming a habit of, well, I'm doing 3 sessions a week. Every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm going to do a training session, and they're all just pre-populated for you. Having that to follow for a couple of months or whatever is a really, really, really good tool, a really good asset to keeping yourself consistent over winter, especially if you're a competitive person. You can make it competitive by either getting a couple of your mates to all do it at the same time and then having a race at the end, or just doing it based on your own performance. So you could do an FTP or some kind of performance test at the beginning and then a performance test at the end. Ultimately, having a consistent training plan that you try and stick to, you know, even if you have a very busy family life, if your family know at 8 a.m. every Tuesday morning and 8 p.m. every Thursday evening, you're going to be written off for an hour because you've got a training session to do. You know, you're creating that space to have some consistency through winter. I think it's really useful and something that I always used. And usually in this day and age, when I go, I should probably get myself fitter again, I'll start a training plan and it'll get me through about 10 days. And then I'll have formed enough habit that I just don't bother following it anymore, but I still just do some more training.
Yeah. Once you're fit enough, it's easy to maintain, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's about motivation, though. Like, yes, it's easy to maintain the fitness, but do you have the motivation to maintain that fitness when the weather's crap?
Mm-hmm.
No, but you just fly to Calpe for 3 days.
In the past, I have had that freedom.
I would also like to caveat this whole winter section with it is also okay to just not ride
at all.
Like, you definitely do. If the weather's hideous outside, if it's icy, just don't bother riding your bike.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually go, do you know what? I just don't want to ride at all this winter. Just don't. It's good to be active, you know, maybe still be active. Do something to be like, have an element of fitness or an act, you know, being movement is good. So still move. But if you're the kind of person which when it comes to winter, you just don't want to ride your bike, don't. Do something else instead. Ride your bike in the summer, ride your bike in the spring, and just don't ride it in winter. Do something else in winter.
Yeah.
Like, that is also fine. If your mates put pressure on you and that is something that you don't want to do, don't worry about it.
No, you'll lose fitness after about 2 weeks by the numbers. However, you will also get it back very quickly when you start riding again.
Yeah.
Those cells have been created in your body. To fill them up again later is an easier job than starting from scratch. So as fitness comes back surprisingly quickly, don't be too scared about losing it.
And also,
everyone does at some point in the year.
We don't need to be fit all year round. We need to be healthy all year round, but actually the best time to kind of cycle fitness is probably the summer. And you kind of like, you know, it gets to spring, the weather starts to turn and get nice, and you go, right, well, now's my chance to get my bike out and spend the next 4 or 5 months. Spend the next 4 or 5 months getting fit. And by the end of the summer, you're like, right, cool, that was fun. That is also fun. I guess something that's important, people, when they do get into routine, they put too much pressure on themselves to stick to it. So the amount of times that it'll get to a Sunday, and that's the day, especially, well, in the UK, Sunday is the day that everyone goes out for a bike ride. It's just always traditionally been that, whether you're in a club or not in a club. And the amount of times that it's unbelievably icy, especially up here in the Northeast, and you just know that people are still going to go out and ride it because they think that, I think there's some kind of stupid rule in the Illuminati thing about like hard be tougher or something or other. And then people go out and then you just wait for Facebook posts to come in about all of the broken collarbones and all of the crashes, because it happens every single year. When it's icy, people go out when they shouldn't. Like, for me, if it's icy, that is the number one space where you go,
Turbo.
Do not ride a bike. Just don't take a bike outside. You might be fine, but what's the point? Why risk it? Why risk breaking your collarbone or breaking your hip or smashing your bike up or crashing into a car and injuring someone else or into pedestrian on another bike? Just don't bother.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, of course you can.
If it's snowing and it is a bit icy, I used to just go out on the mountain bike.
Snow is a different thing. I like riding in the snow.
Yeah. And inevitably there's bits, I used to do like really snowy rides on the mountain bike with my mates, and there would be bits where you have to cross over a road. There's like little patches of road, isn't there, in between? So think about the route. As long as you're not at risk of crashing there, you can probably get away with riding. But if you're going to crash, don't. If there's any risk,